So I got to participate in the Season 8 preview event, and I got to try out the new weapons and some of the new features that are being introduced with this season of the finals. Now, I want to go over basically all of the new additions that are in the game first, and then we'll get into some of the skins and more aesthetic, cosmetic changes. But first, let's start with the fact that we have more match and statistic details that we're going to be able to see at the end of each game, giving us a better performance analysis. We have mouse and keyboard support on console. We also have something being called playstyles that's going to be introduced in the loadout selection. Now, for veterans of this game, it's not really going to change much for you, but this is going to help a lot of newer players understand the game a lot faster. And if you ever want to try a new loadout, it might be a better introduction into testing some sort of new feature of the game, because I feel like a lot of people only see it as 3 classes when in reality there is a lot more than that, but it just comes down to specific type of playstyles, which is what they're trying to cover here. This feature also lets you test it in the practice range, which I think is fantastic. And on that trend, they're really trying to introduce this game to new players in a better way. They've also amped up some of the tutorials so that the new players have a better introduction. Now, since this preview was pretty short, I don't have footage for everything. I'll try to give you guys footage where it applies to the context. If there is no footage, I do apologize. And I really hope that this game grows a lot more with some of these changes, including stuff like new challenges and scenarios to practice this game a lot more. Another really big feature of Season 8 is the destruction. It has been amped up to be a lot smoother and have a lot more logic. Now, in testing here, there were a little bit of jankiness in some cases, but I would say in the majority of cases, the way that stuff fell, the way that stuff interacted with each other made a lot more sense. Whereas before, if you have this big crane falling through a building, before it would just sort of land on top of it. Now it will just sort of cleanly cut through that building, which feels super satisfying to watch. And I think this is actually going to amp up the creativity that a lot of classes that revolve around destruction are going to be able to do. Now, we didn't get to test Kyoto, but we have heard that there was a update to that. They also have a replay feature that they said is not fully finished, but it is going to be implemented. In my experience, it performed quite well, but there are a few bugs with it that I'm hoping get polished by the time that you guys get to play. And they said that they're going to be working on this over time to polish it up even more. I feel like it's pretty accurate and it's in a pretty good state, considering I've played some other FPS games with some very, very awful instant replays for your deaths. So this is a pretty good start. And considering that way back, they had actually said that it would be impossible to pull something like this off, or near impossible, I'm just really proud of the team to be able to pull it off. Considering the way that destruction works, replaying is very difficult. In a lot of other maps where it's completely static, then they don't have to go back and collect sort of the data before a certain piece fell, or the way that destruction fell. And in some games, say like Battlefield, previously you might watch a kill feed and it looks like they're shooting through a wall because the way that the rubble looks on their screen versus your screen is different. So the way that they handle their server-side destruction has always caused a little bit of issues for them to create kill cams. So the fact that they were able to pull it off, I'm just really impressed by. Head-to-head is now a permanent mode. There's also going to be this new, almost heavenly looking map coming that was basically the heavy hitters map. Now I think this might be for a specific game mode. I kind of missed that detail, but we did see that, so I'm excited to see where that goes. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of that. Now for the sponsors, we have Holtau and Trentilla. I'm actually going to be going Trentilla, but I do kind of support Holtau. I just didn't pick Holtau the first time, so I feel like I might as well hop on the new trend of Trentilla. Really curious to see who wins this. I do like the 1 versus 1, where it doesn't feel like there's the one sponsor that gets left behind, Engimo, for example, like the first time, and then I think they got a little bit of a cheat win on the next time they were in, but you know what? We'll move on. When it comes to maps with suspended structures, this I think is my personal favorite update from this season. Basically what they've done is they made the structures a lot bigger. Now, if we look at stuff like Bernal, the suspended structures there are a lot bigger. There's multiple floors. It's a little bit more in depth. They're basically doing that to the rest of the maps that have suspended structures. And in the example of Monaco, it plays so much better. The maps feel so much better. The suspended structure fights are less annoying. There's a lot more cover to play around, whether you're approaching or defending. Things feel a lot more fair, and I am really stoked to see that they've made this change. Bernal is now going to be on TDM. Cosmetics are actually going to be updated. So there are 2 new slots. There is an ear slot, and then there is an effect slot that I saw. Now, effects are basically, lightning or sort of smoke effects around your character. There are some pieces that already have it that I think might be transitioning over to that. But I'm a pretty big fan of this because there are some pieces that I really enjoy, but I personally don't like those effects on it. So if I was able to take those off, that'd be cool. I am not too sure if that's the case. We'll have to see by the time that the season is out, because on the test server, we don't get to, test all the skins that we already have. So some of the previous battle pass skins and stuff like that have these effects. But it's really cool to see that they're messing around with more customization options. I'm always a big fan of more customization because this game is literally the best game for customization in any game. There's no other game that beats it, hands down, and they're still amping it up. So the fact that they're still amping up the best thing is incredible. Now, the new weapons, this is something you guys probably really care about. We have the new medium weapon, which is a P90. So we're getting an SMG on medium. This is something a lot of players have been begging for a long time. I'm super stoked about this. Testing it out myself, I love it. I think this is the weapon I will probably use the most on medium. And then when it comes to heavy, they added a new revolver called the BFR Titan. Now, at first, I was a little bit hesitant. The more I played with it, the more I really enjoyed this because it actually plays pretty similarly to the KS-23, but you can throw in melees and you don't have to worry about canceling a animation. It is a hit scan weapon. The only thing is that the reload does feel like it takes quite a while, and you only get 5 bullets, but you can reload 1 at a time. Overall, this really suited my playstyle. As you guys know, I like using the bow. I also liked using the KS quite a bit recently, so I feel like this really suits into my playstyle, and I'm pretty excited to try this out on live. I had some incredible games on the test server, and I really want to try this out in ranked. I think this might be the main weapon that I use, at least early on in the next season, because I had so much fun with it, and we'll see where we transition from there. Now let's get into some of the skins, first starting with the store page. Now, last couple things I wanted to mention was there is this new option when you are looking at weapons or even the playstyles that says try in practice, which I really like. This is basically, if you're interested in buying a weapon before committing to that purchase, you can go ahead and test it out and see if it's something you like, or you can go ahead and test out all the things that you don't know or don't own, and then just see what feels best, so that way you can work towards it. Now, the ranked rewards, unfortunately, on the preview event, they said that the Ruby is actually supposed to be the ARN 220. As you can see here, it shows the AK next to the P90, the Titan, and the Sniper. So this should be a light weapon this season due to the pattern that they usually do for Ruby weapons. And they said that this was actually a bug and it's meant to be the ARN 220. So take that with a grain of salt. We'll see on live if that is true. But I just wanted to kind of mention that here in case anybody else had kind of got this screenshot and didn't know the full context. And these are the World Tour weapons. So again, we have the Titan, the Sniper, and the P90. Same weapons for ranked, but obviously we have the Ruby that is the fourth weapon. Kind of interesting that they're kind of repeating the weapons for both game modes. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to stay the case, but just wanted to mention this here. Okay, so that is everything new. So if you guys were just looking for information, you guys can cut off the video now. I'm going to kind of talk about my experience with the preview event and give it a little bit of review and what I look forward to in the future. Now, of course, with the competitive scene growing in the majors just around the corner, I did kind of want to mention, since a lot of people have been asking, are you in quals? You can go into the majors, all this stuff. So my plan at the moment is that I would like to go to the majors in order to be a spectator or a coach. Unfortunately, because of the situation with my house, which I'm recording this at my parents' house. I think by the time that this uploads, I might still be living at my parents' house, but we're just so close to being able to fully move in there. But we've had a couple delays, and that's a lot of trying to get people to come out to the house to fix certain things and just having huge delays. It's been like 3 weeks, and we haven't had a plumber come and fix a toilet. Pretty simple thing, and we tried a lot of, home remedy stuff we could do ourselves. But a lot of that's just yapping. What I want to get to is basically that I am wanting to compete, and I have wanted to compete, and I've also wanted to coach or at least participate in the pro scene, but I've just not been able to. I end up leaving my team pretty early on in the season once I knew how long this was going to take so that they could find teams, and one of them actually has qualified so far. I'm curious if they end up in the majors. We're gonna have to see when we get to the closed qualification. So shout out to my teammates, and a lot of my other previous teammates are also doing quite well in the scene, so I'm pretty stoked about their performance, and I'm really proud of all the teams that have made it so far. I'm really excited to try and catch up and watch some of that scene. I'm also going to be covering some of the metas, some of the pro players. I might try and get some interviews, maybe some big discussions. I want to cover this a lot, but like I said, it's just been really hard to, and I need to kind of catch up with both the meta, where everybody's at right now, and, the game in general. So I'm going to be trying to push out some content now, but it's going to be a little bit slow. I'm going to be going through a bit of a transition period now, which means that I want to start uploading, and I am kind of back, but it's just going to be not the frequency that it used to be, and I'm going to slowly try to ramp it up there. But I do want to try and cover some of the new weapons, maybe their stats. I'm going to be trying to cover the meta of the new season, some loadout recommendations, and any new content and new, big changes that are coming with the finals. I also wanted to mention that a lot of people are probably going to ask about balance, and unfortunately, I didn't get to cover any of the balance. The game is only up for a certain time, and we don't really have enough time to test everything. So a lot of it might be speculation. I personally didn't notice any changes myself through stuff that I played. I was told that the balance changes are here, but they're not finalized, and there might be some more tweaks and changes that they make in the future. So stay tuned for the patch notes, and I'll be covering anything that they might miss or any big details within the meta shakeup with the balance changes. Anyways, enjoy Season 8. Grab your BFR Titan, and I will see you in the finals.